For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On the morning of July 18, 1992, 26-year-old Olivia Roberts left her tent at a remote campground near Redwood National Park, California. She never returned. Despite an extensive investigation involving local authorities and search parties, Olivia vanished without a trace. For 33 years, her family lived with agonizing uncertainty, clinging to hope while battling the gnawing fear of the unknown. Then, in 2025, a discovery was made inside Olivia's abandoned tent, DNA evidence that would finally break the decades-old cold case wide open. This is the complete investigation into what happened to Olivia Roberts, a story of cutting-edge forensic science, buried secrets, and the relentless pursuit of justice. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from, and if you enjoy this content, consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Now let's continue. Olivia Roberts, a vibrant 26-year-old botany graduate student, possessed an infectious enthusiasm for the natural world. Her passion for plants and ecosystems led her to explore remote wilderness areas, often with a small group of like-minded friends. In the summer of 1992, Olivia joined two close friends for a camping trip to Redwood National Park in Northern California. They chose a secluded campground nestled deep amongst the ancient redwoods, a place where the towering trees filtered the sunlight, creating an atmosphere of serene isolation. The campground, while breathtakingly beautiful, held a quiet, almost ominous stillness, hinting at the potential dangers of the wilderness. On the evening of July 17th, the friends set up camp, sharing stories and laughter as they cooked dinner over a crackling fire. The air grew cool as night descended, the sounds of the forest gradually replacing their conversation. Olivia retired to her tent, bidding her friends good night. The last image they held of her was the soft glow of her headlamp disappearing behind the zipped canvas. The following morning, a chilling discovery awaited Olivia's friends. Her tent remained zipped shut from the outside, but Olivia was gone. Confusion quickly turned to fear. They searched the immediate area, calling out her name, their voices swallowed by the vastness of the redwood forest. The initial thought was that Olivia might have gone for an early morning walk, perhaps to observe the awakening forest, a habit she often indulged in. However, as the hours passed with no sign of her, a growing sense of dread settled over the campsite. A frantic search began, enlisting the help of other campers, park rangers, and local volunteers. The dense undergrowth and rugged terrain of the redwood forest made the search painstakingly slow and difficult. As the day wore on, the initial theory that Olivia had simply wandered off began to lose credibility. Why would she leave her belongings behind, and why would the tent be zipped from the outside? The mystery surrounding Olivia's disappearance deepened, casting a long shadow over the idyllic campground. The Humboldt County Sheriff's Department launched a full-scale investigation into Olivia Roberts' disappearance. Detectives arrived at the remote campground, their presence a stark contrast to the tranquil setting. They meticulously documented the scene, photographing the campsite, Olivia's tent, and any potential evidence. The initial focus centered on the zipped tent. While it suggested Olivia might have left voluntarily, the lack of any note or indication of her intentions raised suspicions. Investigators carefully examined the tent for signs of forced entry or a struggle, but found none. The zipper appeared to have been closed from the outside, but there were no fingerprints or other discernible marks that could offer a clue. Interviews with Olivia's friends provided a detailed account of the evening leading up to her disappearance. They described Olivia as being in good spirits, with no apparent worries or concerns. They confirmed that she had retired to her tent around 11 p.m., and they had not heard any unusual sounds during the night. The friends' accounts, while helpful in establishing a timeline, offered no concrete explanation for Olivia's vanishing act. The search for Olivia expanded beyond the immediate campground, encompassing the surrounding forest and trails. Search dogs were brought in, but they failed to pick up any scent trails leading away from the campsite. The lack of physical evidence hampered the investigation. There were no signs of a struggle, no footprints or tire tracks suggesting an abduction, and no witnesses who had seen anything unusual. The possibility of a wild animal attack was considered. The remote location of the campground and the presence of wildlife, including black bears and mountain lions, made this a plausible theory. However, experts who examined the scene found no evidence of animal activity near Olivia's tent, and the absence of any torn clothing or signs of a struggle made this theory less likely. As weeks turned into months, the investigation began to stall. Detectives had exhausted all available leads, and the case gradually grew cold. The lack of answers left Olivia's family devastated, their hopes dwindling with each passing day. The initial optimism that she would be found safe and sound was replaced by a gnawing uncertainty that would haunt them for decades. The investigation, though officially remaining open, became inactive, a file gathering dust in the archives of the Humboldt County Sheriff's Department, a testament to the enduring mystery of Olivia Roberts' disappearance. The years following Olivia Roberts' disappearance stretched into decades, each passing season a painful reminder of the unanswered questions that haunted her family and friends. The initial shock and disbelief gradually gave way to a profound sense of loss and a lingering uncertainty that permeated their lives. Birthdays and holidays were marked by a bittersweet mixture of remembrance and sorrow, the empty chair at the table a constant symbol of Olivia's absence. Her parents, once vibrant and full of life, aged visibly under the weight of their grief, their relentless search for answers yielding nothing but frustration and despair. Olivia's friends, who had shared that fateful camping trip, carried the burden of unanswered questions, their memories of that night forever intertwined with the mystery of her vanishing. The remote campground, once a place of shared joy and adventure, became a symbol of loss, a stark reminder of the fragility of life. The Redwood National Park area, while renowned for its natural beauty, had also witnessed its share of disappearances over the years. The vastness of the wilderness, the dense forests, and the rugged terrain presented significant challenges for search and rescue operations. Some cases were eventually resolved, offering closure to grieving families, while others remained shrouded in mystery, adding to the somber history of the region. Olivia's case, like many others, became a cold case, a file tucked away in the archives of the Humboldt County Sheriff's Department, a testament to the enduring power of unanswered questions. During the years that followed Olivia's disappearance, the field of forensic science underwent a period of rapid advancement. DNA technology, in its infancy in the early 1990s, evolved at an astonishing pace, becoming an increasingly powerful tool for solving crimes and identifying missing persons. Techniques for extracting and analyzing DNA from trace evidence improved dramatically, allowing investigators to obtain valuable information from even the smallest samples. These advancements offered a glimmer of hope for cold cases like Olivia's, where traditional investigative methods had reached a dead end. In 2025, the Humboldt County Sheriff's Department established a dedicated cold case unit, tasked with revisiting unsolved mysteries using the latest forensic techniques. Olivia's case, after decades of inactivity, was among those selected for review. The original case file, thick with reports, interviews, and photographs, was retrieved from the archives and meticulously examined. Detectives, armed with the knowledge and technology unavailable to their predecessors, began to reevaluate the evidence, searching for any overlooked clues that might shed light on Olivia's fate. Their attention focused on Olivia's tent, a key piece of evidence that had been carefully preserved over the years. The decision to re-examine the tent, using the latest DNA analysis techniques, marked a turning point in the investigation, offering a renewed sense of hope that the mystery of Olivia Roberts' disappearance might finally be solved. Matthew Morgan, a forensic DNA analyst with the California Department of Justice, possessed a meticulous and methodical approach to his work. His expertise lay in extracting and analyzing DNA from trace evidence, often in cases where traditional investigative methods had failed. In 2025, Morgan was assigned to the Olivia Roberts case, tasked with re-examining the tent recovered from the Redwood National Park campground over 3 decades earlier. The tent, carefully preserved in an evidence locker, held the potential to unlock the secrets of Olivia's disappearance. The process of re-examining the tent was painstaking and delicate. Morgan worked in a sterile laboratory environment, wearing protective gear to prevent contamination. He meticulously examined every inch of the tent's surface, searching for any trace evidence that might have been overlooked in the initial investigation. His focus centered on areas where a person might have touched the tent, such as the zipper, the seams, and the areas around the entrance. Using specialized tools, Morgan carefully collected samples from these areas, ensuring that the integrity of the evidence was maintained. The samples, minute and barely visible to the naked eye, were then transported to the DNA lab for analysis. The extraction of DNA from the aged samples presented a significant challenge. Over time, DNA degrades, making it more difficult to obtain a complete profile. However, advancements in DNA technology had made it possible to extract and analyze even highly degraded samples. Morgan employed the latest techniques, carefully amplifying the DNA fragments to generate a usable profile. The process was time-consuming and required meticulous attention to detail, but the potential rewards were significant. As the DNA analysis progressed, a breakthrough emerged. Among the DNA profiles extracted from the tent, Morgan identified a partial male profile that did not belong to any of Olivia's friends or the original investigators. This discovery sent a ripple of excitement through the cold case unit. The presence of an unknown male's DNA on Olivia's tent raised the possibility that they had finally found a lead in the decades-old mystery. The partial DNA profile was then entered into the Combined DNA Index System, CODIS, a national database containing DNA profiles of convicted offenders and arrestees. The results of the CODIS search were swift and shocking. The partial male DNA profile found on Olivia's tent matched that of Trevor Davis, a 58-year-old man with a history of violent assaults. Davis had been convicted of assault in 1995, 2 years after Olivia's disappearance, and his DNA profile had been entered into CODIS as a result of that conviction. The match provided a potential suspect in Olivia's disappearance, a name and a face to attach to the DNA evidence. The realization that a potential suspect had been identified after all these years sent a wave of hope through the investigation. The case, once cold and seemingly forgotten, was suddenly revived, offering a glimmer of hope for justice and closure for Olivia's family. The discovery of Trevor Davis's DNA on Olivia's tent was a pivotal moment in the investigation, transforming a decades-old mystery into a viable criminal case. Lieutenant Brent Harding, a seasoned detective with the Humboldt County Sheriff's Department, inherited the Olivia Roberts case in 2025. Hardened by years of investigating complex crimes, Harding approached the case with a blend of cautious optimism and unwavering determination. The DNA match to Trevor Davis had provided a crucial lead, but Harding knew that a DNA match alone was not enough to secure a conviction. He needed to build a solid case against Davis, gathering corroborating evidence and establishing a clear link between Davis and Olivia's disappearance. The investigation into Trevor Davis began with a thorough background check. Detectives delved into his past, examining his criminal record, employment history, and any known associations. They learned that Davis had worked as a seasonal laborer in the Redwood National Park area during the summer of 1992, the same time Olivia disappeared. This placed him in the vicinity of the campground at the time of the incident, a significant detail that strengthened the link between Davis and the case. Surveillance was established on Davis, his movements and interactions monitored closely. Detectives hoped to observe any behavior that might indicate his involvement in Olivia's disappearance. A crucial aspect of the new investigation involved revisiting the original witness statements, particularly those of Olivia's friends who had been with her on the camping trip. Harding recognized the importance of re-examining these statements with fresh eyes, looking for any details that might have been overlooked or dismissed in the initial investigation. He meticulously reviewed the transcripts of the original interviews, searching for any inconsistencies or subtle clues that might shed light on the case. The re-examination of the witness statements proved invaluable. Grace O'Donnell, one of Olivia's camping companions, recalled a detail that had not been fully explored in the initial investigation. She remembered a man, later identified as Trevor Davis, who had lingered around their campsite on the evening of Olivia's disappearance. O'Donnell described Davis as having a disquieting presence, and she and her friends had felt uneasy about his persistent loitering. They had exchanged polite but brief conversations with him, and he had eventually moved on. At the time, they had dismissed his presence as merely unsettling, but in light of the DNA match, his presence took on a new and ominous significance. O'Donnell's testimony provided crucial circumstantial evidence, placing Trevor Davis at the scene of the crime and corroborating the DNA evidence found on Olivia's tent. Armed with the DNA match, Davis's presence at the campground, and O'Donnell's unsettling account, Harding began to build a compelling case against Trevor Davis. While the circumstantial evidence was strong, Harding knew that a confession would solidify the case and provide irrefutable proof of Davis's guilt. He prepared to confront Davis, determined to uncover the truth behind Olivia Roberts' disappearance after more than 3 decades of unanswered questions. The investigation had reached a critical juncture, with the potential to finally bring justice and closure to Olivia's family and friends. The interrogation of Trevor Davis took place in a small, sparsely furnished room at the Humboldt County Sheriff's Department. Lieutenant Harding sat across from Davis, a stark contrast between the seasoned detective and the weathered suspect. The room was silent save for the hum of the fluorescent lights overhead, the air thick with anticipation. Harding began the interrogation by reviewing the evidence against Davis, emphasizing the DNA match found on Olivia Roberts' tent. He detailed the meticulous process of DNA analysis, highlighting the improbability of a false positive. He then presented the circumstantial evidence, including Davis's presence at the campground on the night of Olivia's disappearance and Grace O'Donnell's unsettling account of his loitering near their campsite. As Harding laid out the evidence, he observed Davis closely, noting his reactions and body language. Davis remained largely impassive, his gaze fixed on the table, offering little in the way of response. Harding continued, his tone measured and deliberate, gradually increasing the psychological pressure. He spoke of the years of anguish Olivia's family had endured, the unanswered questions that had haunted them for decades. He appealed to Davis's conscience, urging him to confess and bring closure to the case. The interrogation stretched on for hours, a tense battle of wills between the detective and the suspect. Harding employed various interrogation techniques, alternating between empathetic appeals and pointed accusations. He painted a picture of the overwhelming evidence against Davis, emphasizing the futility of denial. He offered Davis a chance to tell his side of the story, to explain his presence at the campground and the DNA evidence on Olivia's tent. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. After hours of silence and denial, Davis's demeanor shifted. His shoulders slumped, his gaze dropped to the floor, and a flicker of emotion crossed his face. He began to speak, his voice low and hesitant, recounting the events of that night in 1992. He admitted to abducting Olivia from her tent, driven by a dark impulse he couldn't explain. He confessed to assaulting her and then, in a panic, burying her body in a shallow grave in a remote section of the redwood forest. Davis explained how he had staged the disappearance by zipping Olivia's tent from the outside, hoping to mislead investigators into believing she had left voluntarily. He had then returned to his own campsite, feigning ignorance of her whereabouts. He had lived with the secret for over 30 years, the weight of his crime a constant burden. He expressed remorse for his actions, acknowledging the devastating impact his crime had had on Olivia's family and friends. Davis's confession brought a chilling resolution to the decades-old mystery. It revealed the truth behind Olivia's disappearance, confirming the worst fears of her loved ones. It also highlighted the limitations of the initial investigation, which had lacked the advanced DNA technology that ultimately led to Davis's capture. The investigators in 1992 had done their best with the tools available to them, but they had been unable to uncover the crucial piece of evidence, the DNA on Olivia's tent, that would ultimately crack the case. The advancements in forensic science had played a pivotal role in solving the mystery, demonstrating the power of technology to bring justice to victims of long-forgotten crimes. Following Davis's confession, the focus shifted to locating Olivia's remains. Davis provided investigators with a detailed description of the burial site, guiding them to a remote area deep within the redwood forest. The search was a somber and difficult undertaking, the terrain rugged and overgrown. After days of searching, Olivia's remains were finally located, bringing a sense of closure, albeit a painful one, to her family. The discovery of her remains marked the final chapter in a long and agonizing journey, allowing her loved ones to finally lay her to rest and begin the process of healing. The discovery of Olivia Roberts' remains in the remote reaches of Redwood National Park brought a mix of profound sorrow and long-awaited relief. After more than 3 decades of uncertainty, her family finally had the confirmation they had both dreaded and desperately sought. The recovery of her remains, though a heart-wrenching experience, provided a tangible connection to Olivia, a physical reminder of the life that had been stolen. The site, marked by the passage of time and the relentless growth of the forest, became a place of mourning and remembrance, a sacred space where family and friends could gather to honor her memory. With Trevor Davis's confession and the recovery of Olivia's remains, the legal process moved forward. Davis pled guilty to charges of abduction, assault, and manslaughter, accepting responsibility for his actions and sparing Olivia's family the ordeal of a lengthy trial. The court proceedings were emotionally charged, with family and friends delivering impact statements that conveyed the profound and enduring impact of Olivia's loss. They spoke of her vibrant spirit, her infectious enthusiasm for life, and the void her absence had left in their lives. The judge, acknowledging the gravity of the crime and the decades of suffering it had caused, sentenced Davis to a substantial prison term, bringing a measure of justice to Olivia and her loved ones. A memorial service was held for Olivia, providing a space for family and friends to grieve openly and celebrate her life. The service was a testament to the enduring power of love and remembrance. Stories were shared, tears were shed, and laughter echoed through the air as those who knew and loved Olivia recalled her infectious spirit and her unwavering passion for the natural world. The memorial served as a poignant reminder of the life that had been tragically cut short, but also as a celebration of the enduring impact she had made on those who knew her. The resolution of the Olivia Roberts case resonated far beyond the small community surrounding Redwood National Park. It highlighted the critical role of forensic science in solving complex crimes, particularly cold cases where traditional investigative methods had reached an impasse. The advancements in DNA technology, which had been instrumental in identifying Trevor Davis and ultimately securing his conviction, underscored the importance of continued investment in forensic science and the potential for these advancements to bring justice to victims and closure to their families. The case also served as a testament to the persistence and dedication of investigators, who, even after decades, remained committed to uncovering the truth and seeking justice for Olivia. The enduring mystery surrounding Olivia's final moments continues to haunt those who knew and loved her. While the case has been resolved, the precise details of what transpired in the hours after she retired to her tent that night remain shrouded in uncertainty. Trevor Davis's confession provided a framework for understanding the events leading up to Olivia's death, but the full truth, the intimate details of her final moments, may never be fully known. Despite this lingering uncertainty, the resolution of the case brought a measure of peace and closure to Olivia's family and friends, allowing them to finally begin the long and difficult process of healing and moving forward, forever cherishing the memories of the vibrant young woman whose life was tragically cut short.